Hi, welcome to the March 14th Transportation Committee meeting. I am Fred Chang. I'm the chair of the committee, and also present are council members Scott Diener, Mayor Rob Hutanzu. I don't know your title, Chris. Is it city engineer?
Correct.
Okay. And Crystal, I forgot your affiliation.
It's at Public Health.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And Chris is showing us the agenda and a map of the streets. Okay. Chris, when you're ready, if you'd like to start with the updates.
Okay. All right, so we're trying to kick out a number of transportation projects here. It's time to bid projects here in the winter and spring. And our citywide asphalt preservation projects going to go out on the 24th of March. So we're finally able to get all the approvals we needed from the state, and we should have the approval from TIB in the next couple of days. Everything's lined up for that. So that will include the overlay on Old Clifton, as well as all the other work. We're packaging everything up for the 2-year we have a biennial budget, and so it's 23 and 24, and it will be both years this year. So that's good. We're getting something accomplished there. Pottery, we're hoping to advertise that project in April. We're still trying to get those pieces of right away if we can from those 2 fronting property owners for the sidewalk. And we need a development permit from WashDOT. We just finalized our drawings a couple weeks ago, and we've been working with them to submit. And they'll need, certain bonding and approval of our alignment of our utilities and their alignment and things like that. So we may have to give them another cross section or 2 in our plans. So we're working with them to get them what they need. So hopefully that'll come together in sometime in April. The Bethel 5A project, that's the 2 roundabouts at Bethel, Lincoln, and Lund. I've been having some performance issues with our consultant, unfortunately, in terms of schedule. They had some personnel changes into last year. Our project manager left the company, and they've been hiring new people, but they haven't been able to really meet our timeline on their 2 projects with them. So it's still possible that we could advertise that project in time so that we can start in June. But that project is really built around the school being out for the summer because the bus barn's there and it's close to the high school, and we want to do that one over the summer. So worst case scenario, we'll put that off a year. It doesn't put our funding in jeopardy, or there really are no ramifications for us other than we're just not getting the work done. And right now we'd be having that work and Puget Sound Energy's relocation of the overhead utilities happening at the same time, which is a little hard to manage. So it'd be great to get it done, but just a heads up that may not happen, although we're still pushing hard to make sure to try to get that done this summer. And then on the Bay Street pedestrian pathway, segments 6 to 11 to the west of the city here, we're working away on that. Our original goal was to try to get that advertised in September. We have to get our right-of-way certified in June for that to happen. And so it doesn't look like we're having some trouble with segment 11 at the very west end about acquiring all the right-of-way in that segment. We may not be successful in getting possession and use in time to advertise on our current schedule. So I'm meeting with WashDOT on Thursday to just double check that there are no, we could either omit segment 11 for the time being to defer that work, or delay and do all the work at once, which is preferable to WashDOT. We just don't want to make sure we don't risk losing any of our, with having to redo a bunch of permitting work. We don't incur a bunch of costs or risk further delays with the project. So I'll be looking into that on Thursday.
Chris, which is segment 11?
That's the one right adjacent to the Kitsap Transit Annapolis ferry dock.
Okay.
Okay, I thought I heard you say west, so I was thinking, is that
Oh, I
west?
meant to say, wait, oh, yeah, that would be east. I don't know, whenever I think of Seattle, I say west. I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah, the furthest east segment sounds like it's the last to come online.
Yeah,
Okay.
And so
Interesting.
what does that delay potentially mean?
well, I would hope that we would only be delaying a couple of months, so, but, you could potentially advertise instead of September and November, and if not, in February.
Okay,
We still have, we have the parking there to obtain at the end of the along the right of way. And then we have a number of pieces of tide land that we're only buying. We're acquiring the access. We're not actually acquiring the property, but because our pathway will prevent access, and we're still planning on building a couple of sets of stairs along there. So people will have access, just not every parcel along there. And right now, today, the access is down, rocks and riprap to
Right.
get to the beach. So they'll have better access, actually, in my opinion.
But that's not how the case law history has gone. So we're stuck having to pay them for for the fact that we're blocking their access with our facility.
Well, that's sort of exciting, I guess. Well, I guess the positive is that we have segments 6 through 10, pretty much, except for the Tideland access. But,
Yeah. Anyway, you stack it up, there's a lot of right-of-way work that's got to happen in just a very few months, which,
okay,
so we'll keep you posted.
great, okay. Okay, now I guess we're ready for the McCormick Woods speeding update.
Okay, so I was gonna pull up another map here.
And you guys saw, I shared with full council the traffic emphasis that we performed out there at the end of last month, and the results from that. I've talked to the chief about, our hiring challenges continue in the police department, but I don't want to call them savings, but we have unspent dollars because of the unfilled positions, and we're going to offer overtime to do traffic emphasis, not just in McCormick, but in the various hotspots that we have it throughout the city. And so every, few months, we're going to do an emphasis in McCormick Woods. And as you saw in that data, 100% in the morning, 100% of the speeders were residents of McCormick Woods. And then the vast majority, not 100%, but majority of the speeders in the afternoon were contractors and laborers working on the houses that are out there in the construction activity. And we have had conversation with McCormick Communities to talk to their builders about driving responsibly out there.
All right, so everybody had a chance to read the email and kind of get familiar with the recent enforcement action.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that we were stopping every vehicle over 10 miles per hour, this 10 miles over the speed limit, and writing citations to anyone doing 15 plus. Maybe that should be lowered. Citations to anyone 10 plus, it's 25 miles there, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. And
I, nor the police chief can direct a police officer to write a ticket. So I agree with you, but they have discretion in the field. And that's the law.
And that is often when we bring the police in, is when we have people that are, operating way outside the speed limit. That's often when cities will do the enforcement. All right, so here, does everybody see the latest map here?
yes,
So this just shows the study area. So we have entered a task with Transportation Solutions Incorporated to do a study in this area. The study will identify speed mitigation recommendations for all study corridors, including but not limited to signage, traffic calming, and enforcement measures. And it's kind of everything you see here. We're looking at specific intersections as well as all those segments that are colored. So hopefully in another month, I was trying to get in touch with TSI this week. I wasn't successful, but we'll have last time on the study they did for Sydney and Pottery, they turned that around within a couple weeks. So hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have further information for you to share.
And I guess the turquoise segment is Merrimack.
This one?
No,
No, right here.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
And they're also, they are evaluating, I think it was this intersection and this intersection, even though not shown, those are ones we had talked about.
Okay.
This was an earlier kind of a discussion point that I had with them before we finalized the scope. And then I think they were looking at this one. So those three were of primary interest. Okay. Well, that's all I had for you on the update for McCormick Woods for speed studies out there. Wanted to spend some time. We're developing this project on Pottery, the non-motorized project. That's the road diet project, and also we secured funding from Safe Routes to School program for doing some site non-motorized improvements as well on Sydney Road, just to the south. And we have a bunch of development that's happening there between the townhome complex and apartments, and hopefully in not too distant future Kitsap Transit. So we tasked Transportation Solutions Incorporated to evaluate the speed limits in that area. And I've got another map that shows the extent of that.
Hey, Chris, what's the speed limit on that corridor right now? Is it 30 or 35?
30.
Okay.
Oh,
So basically from Albertsons at Sedgwick all the way to Tremont is what they studied.
yeah, I can, this little diagram here I pulled up, for some reason it's not very large, but that's exactly right. So pretty much all of Pottery south of Tremont and Sydney Road north of Sedgwick there. So as this area all develops into becoming more urban, the thought is we might at some point want to lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. And so we have them do this report. The recommendation is, given the corridor's context, it's recommended that the posted speed limit be reduced from 30 to 25 miles an hour. Speed limit reduction should be implemented, coordinated with planned corridor improvements. So there's nothing that says we have to do it with when we complete the Pottery projects on the north end here. We could wait to do more until the area densifies further to the south. But I just wanted to introduce that concept to the committee and get some feedback on the timing, whether you think lowering the speed limit to 25 would be good following the Pottery project. We want to wait a little longer till we've completed more work on the corridor, or if that's just something that's not of interest. This is something we can justify through NACTO, but of course, if we're the other way to look at it is the 85th percentile speeds.
Chris, I talked to the police chief about this yesterday,
Mhm.
and he liked the idea about doing it immediately.
Okay.
And I don't know how the committee feels about that. We got two school zones in that area. I don't know why it was a rural,
Mhm.
road without much housing along it historically, and that's changing.
Yeah, I see it as having three segments, from Tremont to the stop sign at Lippert, and then Lippert to the stop sign at Berry Lake. So there's like three segments, and Rob, I agree. I think the middle segment between Lippert and Berry Lake is becoming more, well, there's more housing there, I guess.
When the first segment already has the housing.
Yeah, so I guess, but the section between Berry Lake and Sedgwick, I'm sure people consider it a freeway still, because there wasn't much there until the new apartments. But I have no concerns about it going to 25 right away or from 30. I mean, no reservations.
The chief did say if we lowered the speed limit, there would be an education process. They wouldn't write tickets, flags would go up on the speed limit signs, and there'd be a process, that, we aren't just gonna immediately go out and hammer people for, driving 35 out there.
Yeah, we usually put the flags up for 90 days.
What do we have timeline for any new construction from the new apartments towards Albertsons? That would be south on Old Sydney. Is there any timeline on any new construction?
Transit is still acquiring their property. So there's nothing imminent with there for the mixed use project. I know that just on the opposite side of the street, where Manasushi is and the apartments, that next parcel, Bob Disney has got a project there. We've been in discussions with him that it's a mixed use project. Chris, what's the scale of that project? I know we've been in review and we've been discussing some interim sewer improvements there and try to get approvals with health. How large is that project? Do you recall?
Well, it's a couple blocks along the frontage there, and it's
No,
deep.
but how many housing units and how much commercial? Do you remember? I know you
Yeah,
look at so many projects.
Yeah, I don't remember the number of units, but it's, there's a number of commercial pads, and then there's also the housing in behind.
So it's not as big as Haven, but it's, I'm gonna guesstimate 100 or so units. Other than that, Haven's next phase, they're pausing and they're not going to break. They were going to break ground on that here in March. They're just, cost of capital's gone up. They have some concerns about our market getting oversaturated with all the units under construction. So they're going to build their project, but not tomorrow.
So this was the townhomes.
The townhomes across the street. Yes.
Okay. Chris, I have a nicer map to share if you can let me share, but it's not important.
Yeah, we know where this segment of roadway is. I don't know that it's.
I have a couple of issues with lowering it down at this point. I think it would be a little bit wiser to lower it when we start a new project along there and to make more sense for the citizens, number one, because it is quite open from the new apartment complex towards Albertsons. It is still virtually country road, if you will. And secondly, we've got an issue going on with speed emphasis in McCormick Woods, and we're not able to really provide enough enforcement on that road because we're short on manpower. It seems kind of redundant to lower a speed limit in an area and not be able to give it any type of enforcement at this point. That's just my opinions.
Yeah, this is one of the areas that would be the additional enforcement areas the chief and I talked about, even at the current speed limits. We do have 2 school zones, and maybe we leave the part of it from Berry Lake down alone based on
Yeah.
Yeah, the other alternative might be to wait till 2025 when we build the improvements near the school. I guess then the argument is in the meantime, what if kids are walking to school and we don't have those improvements, and they're outside the school zone because we have more we now have more people moving into the neighborhood. But I agree with what you're saying. Right? There's not a ton of urban development there yet, so the perception of the public could be different than our desire to get people to go slower.
I think I agree with Fred in so much that second segment between Berry Lake and Lippert, I think that should come down now because quite
North of Berry
frankly,
Lake,
the senior citizen places along there have complained to me personally about the excessive speed along that section. I'm more concerned with lowering it to the south unnecessarily so after the school zone that's already in place for Sydney Glen.
Yeah, you would have a patchwork of what you're discussing there. I think you at least need to go from Tremont down to Berry Lake. Otherwise, you're going to go 30, 25 and then back up to 30.
Oh, no, yeah, and I'm fine with that. Just run a 25 from Tremont to
So-
Berry Lake.
Yeah.
I'm starting to hear a third alternative here, which is to, once we complete our project, do the northerly half on Pottery and then wait till we do the next project to do the southerly portion of it.
I agree with Mark. What were the chief's major concerns? Rob, was it just at their schools? Was that it? Or? did he
I
have
just
other
asked the
concerns?
question, would you be opposed to, we have a traffic study that says that we should be lowering the speed limit in this area based on the development that we're getting and with the projects that we're about to implement to make them more pedestrian friendly. And I said, do you have any concerns about lowering the speed limits now versus when we do the projects? And he said he had no concerns with lowering the speed limit.
I see.
That was the context.
So he's
I-
not really, okay.
I
Um,
will-
He's not advocating for it. He just didn't.
He's not driving anything.
He
Right.
just said that there's gonna be an if we lower the speed limit, we're not gonna go out there and write tickets all day on the lower speed limit. We're gonna educate people.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I'd like to see us hold off where we can.
So is it hold off until we construct each project? Or is it doing part of it now and waiting on the southerly section? I've heard.
I'd wait on the southerly sections, Berry Lake to Sedgwick, keep that 30. But realistically, what is the difference between 30 and 25? I mean, that's not a major difference.
Everybody drives 10 over.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
the posted
I
speed
guess.
limit is.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what people are, that most people are traveling at, if you can lower the speed limit, of course, then your serious injuries and deaths, the percentage of those go down pretty rapidly with the reduction in the speed limit.
The south end is
But
also
you
seeing
have to
some,
you have to be able to achieve the speed limit as well. So
the south end has got those pedestrian improvements that have been pretty helpful or would be helpful for keeping people off the shoulder as well.
I don't know that I've heard consensus yet.
So I could come to the council now with a resolution to lower the speed limit between Tremont and Berry Lake. Or we could just wait for a couple of years till we do the Sydney project and then bring up the issue then.
I'm happy waiting.
I'm happy waiting.
I'm indifferent to doing it now. But not too strong, but I guess Chris, it would depend how compelling your report was on how safe or how dangerous that area is around the schools and the senior center. I mean, I can see certainly dropping it from Tremont to Berry Lake because of that, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Well,
I mean, I think the way to look at this is, 30 is safe enough. We could look at doing 25 as a safety enhancement with the idea that we're getting people that are, driving a little bit over 30 to start thinking about, well, maybe I should be slowing down a little bit. And that's been the way that a lot of cities have been going is lowering these speed limits a little bit more than we used to in the past, with the idea that people generally won't go 10 over the speed limit. And that's
Well,
supported by the more recent NACTO guidance versus the 85%, setting the speed limits around the 85th percentile speed.
I think you've heard a consensus, I think.
Okay, well, we'll put that off for a couple of years. There's nothing in the report that says we have to, we're committed to doing this anytime. It just is to look at evaluating this as the area densifies.
Hey, Chris, are we 2 years out from the road diet on Pottery there?
No, that's going to happen this summer. And
So
then
Chris, after that project is when we got to change this.
Yeah.
Not a couple years from now. When we finish that project is when we need to lower the speed limit.
that would make
Makes
sense. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that definitely makes sense because
that would happen on Pottery, but the work on Sydney won't happen for a couple more years. That's
Right. But we're discussing taking the speed limit down from Tremont down to Lippert, which is the majority of those improvements happen in that segment.
And we could either do that following Pottery, or we could wait a couple more years till we get more infrastructure on the street with Sydney and then do it all at once.
I think it makes the most sense, particularly there in front of Cedar Heights and the senior centers, Ridgemont and the others on the other side. When we're done doing that road diet, change the speed limit.
Okay. All right. Well, I will, our next step, Lynn, in Public Works will be to bring you a resolution, council resolution to lower the speed limits after the project is completed on that segment, the Pottery segment.
Yeah, I think we can justify that too to the citizens by the fact that we're providing more transportation opportunities for walkers and bicyclists.
Yeah, it's another safety enhancement to go along with the project. Okay, well, do we have a decision? Going once, going twice?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. All right, the next issue is the WashDOT Fish Passage projects. We've got a, so let me first of all start out with a map. Shows where all these things are. Give a little bit of background. I'm going to share my screen again here. If I can. All right, how's that?
Good.
Got it.
Okay, so we're fortunate that we have a number of fish passage culverts that WashDOT is working on within the city limits and just outside the city limits in Sinclair Inlet. In this map here, you can see A through E. And two of those that are labeled in this map, it's interesting because we have one team in Western Washington that's working on fish passage culverts in Sinclair Inlet, and then another one in Eastern Washington that's working on two other culverts. So within city limits, we have D and E, but we also have, just as general information, one at Ross Creek, which is somewhere in here, and then one at where's downtown? Pottery. Yeah, so I guess Ross Creek and then Johnson Creek, right by downtown where Port Orchard Boulevard comes down and meets Bay Street. So 4 fish passage culverts currently in design by WashDOT. And we've been, of course, coordinating with them, with WashDOT, to support their efforts here. And in specific to the one out on Mile Hill E, they originally approached us, well, can we put in a fish passage culvert, and we'd have to block the road off for a period of 6 months and close the road to do that. And they went back, they did some evaluation, coordinated with the school district and Kitsap Transit and others, and came back and said, well, we really don't think we can do that. So we're going to build a bridge there, and we're going to maintain traffic in both directions and build half at a time. And then we got looking at the non-motorized elements, what's required. Currently, the city's comprehensive plan calls for both bike lanes and sidewalks out along Mile Hill. But WashDOT has different criteria that they use. They now are getting more serious about in urban areas about making sure they provide good pedestrian non-motorized facilities along with highways. And let's see if I can find the interesting table here. So here we get at the bicycle levels, not level of service. They're looking at what's the word they're using now? Shoot, it's not coming to mind. But basically how people feel in that environment. Do they feel safe or do they not feel safe? Level of stress. And so as they compute the level of stress with the facility that the city has, we only, we're still down at a 4, and they'd like to move us up to a 2, which would be acceptable. And in order to do that, so they did this one here. So we started out with just the bike lane and the sidewalk, and we're still at a 4. And then as we get into putting in a buffered bike lane, we get up to a 3. But they're saying, well, to make it a 4, we'd have to do some kind of separated facility on both sides of the roadway. So that'd be more like, you can see here we achieve a 2 with this cross section. But one problem we have is out in that area of the city, we don't, first of all, the city there aren't any multi-use pathways, and the city doesn't have plans along the Mile Hill corridor for that. And then there's no really good crossing locations or safe areas to cross near the proposed facility, the new bridge there. So is that a good fit or not? WashDOT thinks they can go back, and with the buffered bike lane, they think they have something that would be acceptable to them. But they're the design team's kind of just asking the question of, all the partners about what it is the city has a vision for and the county has a vision for in that area.
Is that buffered? Is that like a wall that they're putting, like a Jersey barrier separating the traffic from the bike lane in the prior drawing? Because
So, typically,
what
buffered bike
you're
lane-
showing right here,
Yeah.
there's not enough right of way. It fits great there over the stream, but there's no right of way to continue that up or down Mile Hill.
Yeah, it would take a pretty serious vision and investment to make something like that happen for Mile Hill. So we're talking about just a buffered bike lane is, as I understand it, is just basically pavement marking, so a hatch and a couple stripes, 2 fog lines.
We want the bridge as wide as we can to accommodate the future, but I don't see us building a multi-use path in this area separated from the roadway.
Yeah, okay, and then a couple other exhibits I just wanted to give a little bit of background here. So let's see, let's look at the parks along Mile Hill. There's some county parks in here. I'm just looking at what traffic generators we might have that would, would the city want to revisit our comprehensive planning on this issue or not?
This issue being,
What kind of non-motorized facilities to have along Mile Hill Drive?
But
Okay.
that's out in the Kitsap County, Chris. That's not, city limits are even before this bridge on the south side,
Yeah,
So is the bridge at Olney or what?
just past West Bay Auto.
yeah, between Reds only.
They were actually considering shutting down Mile Hill for 6 months?
6 to 9 months.
Are they out of their mind?
Yes, they were. They're not
How
gonna
could-
do that now.
How could they even consider it?
well, would
don't
they have
drive
shut
it.
down the whole right away? Or
Yes.
just,
That was their initial ask.
wow.
Oh my God.
I forget the exact numbers, but it was like the difference between $4 million and $10 million to do the project, something like that. It was.
So people would be going on surface streets, residential areas to get around that? Is it
Yeah.
even possible?
Yeah, we looked at different detour routes and the city had some concerns, the county had some concerns. The biggest thing was I think the school district convinced the state that it wasn't a viable thing for them.
And
Oh, good.
transit. So anyway, that's not on the table anymore.
Good.
So I love the idea of the buffered bike lanes. I think that'd be great. I don't see it as a practical solution there, however. We don't have the right of way width. I think that was a minimum 75-foot profile.
Yeah, we'd be buying businesses and houses all the way up that. That's just not
Yeah, I mean,
not viable.
It's not an easy thing to achieve. It'd have to be a major initiative for the city for sure.
yeah.
And most of
I
that's
don't
not.
want to diminish the importance of bikeways, pedways, and all that, because I think that's extremely important and has become more important, but the buffered approach is too much.
Yeah, and I also wanted to, other things we could look at. I know the county's wrestling this on Lund as well with their improvements. And so, these are different types of buffered bike lanes you could get into. We could potentially have an offset with a planter strip. And, if we had a different vision for the corridor, a little more refined vision for the corridor where we have, and we'll be looking at this type of stuff to the extent that you all would support it with Bethel as we develop that project. But potentially you could have the bike lanes separated from the traffic lanes. Different things that the county is evaluating and on their Lund project. And I'm kind of waiting to see what they end up doing. And whatever they end up doing, I think I'd like to bring that back for discussion. But just to
What's the-
show you, there's other options that you could look at that would be an improvement over just a bike lane with the traffic lane.
Well, what's the compelling reason to look at a separated bike lane versus, with a planter strip, for example, versus a bike lane that otherwise shares the right of way, the shoulder, for example? Is it because of speed of traffic?
Yeah, and volume, again, it's about that level of stress and whether or not it's safe for, families with kids and, people, what we want to build facilities that will be used by a broader range of users. And
Chris,
so,
this
Right.
isn't realistic or viable on Mile Hill. I mean, you're just,
Yeah.
they're not gonna put a
big
tree
driveway.
grass median over this bridge.
Right.
No,
What's
no,
the-
no,
this-
and I was just, my point of this was to show that, if there are alternatives.
There's
to
not enough right of way,
that way.
Chris. There's not enough right of way on Mile Hill.
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
it's a
it's-
really nice idea, but it
is,
doesn't
but it's
fit
just
that
not-
area.
It wasn't, it should have been planned for 50 years ago and it wasn't.
Yeah, not on my hill.
Right, but
And
you
the speed
understand,
limit-
I'm not trying to argue for a multi-use pathway. I'm trying to demonstrate that even if we don't have one, there are other things we could do that might be, provide more accommodation for more people. So that's just the point.
Yeah,
Whether
we
it's that or
definitely want the state to
community.
build us a bike lane and give us a wide enough bridge to accommodate what we want a bike lane on the bridge and shoulders and sidewalks up and down that road. We don't even have sidewalks right now.
Yeah, and barring any further direction from the city, if we wanted to go in and revisit our comprehensive planning to do some different vision on the corridor.
It's not viable, Chris.
They're gonna provide.
Quit beating this horse. It's dead. It's not
Oh,
viable.
yeah, I'm just summarizing. I'm not trying to beat the horse. I'm just saying we're gonna get basically what we have in our comp plan today, which is the sidewalk and the bike lanes. And I personally feel that that's with, along with what we planned, and that's what fits as well. So. Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure that we looked at that. Nick wanted me to make sure we had a conversation in case it was an opportunity for us to do something different if that was desired. And I didn't think it would be. I thought it was a straw dog, and it is.
Well, it's
Yeah,
really
one of the
nice.
things that
but-
that I think I read, I don't know if it was our I think it might have been City Vision magazine, was that many more people would like to bike than currently do.
Mhm.
That most people are traveling for some of their immediate shopping trips within 3 miles of where they live. And so that more people would like to bike, they just don't feel safe doing it. So I want to continue to approach, our traffic management, our quality of life, and people who want to take their kids out on roads with a lens towards safety and also good looking improvements.
I
Yeah,
testified.
in more dense areas, something like these pictures that I was just showing you might make a little sense where you have a lot more people biking, a lot more people walking. If
Maybe
you're
Bethel.
beyond the bridge in the county, chances are the kids could be riding a bike on a separated sidewalk and the tailpipe riders could be on the road and everything would be just fine because there's not that many users out there. So, but everything in context.
Yeah, Scott, and I agree with you 100%. And today I testified on a bill that we're asking for that will allow us to use our traffic impact fees. Currently, we can only use for multimodal improvement. It's got to be in the right of way. So if this bill passes, it would allow us, like our old Clifton non-motorized that's separated from the shoulder, we can't use our traffic impact fees. Why not? It's another form of transportation. So anyway, so a number of cities testified on that bill today, and I'm hopeful that that would get passed and just gives us opportunity to build these types of amenities where we've got sufficient right of way, to achieve it.
So essentially being able to use them in easements.
Yes. Versus
Okay.
just not right. Only today, it's only allowed on your right of way
Right away.
adjacent to your road.
Yeah.
And of course, the building industry testified against it. Because they said we'd all raise our impact fees to pay for more of these. And they're probably right.
They should be offering to pay for it if they were smart.
Well,
Hey, Chris. Can I circle back around here? I've got a question in regards to these 4 inside the city InDesign fish passages. Are these all scheduled to pop at the same time? Or are we systematically scheduling them so we don't have a complete and utter traffic shutdown during the construction of these things?
2 of them are farther along than the other 2, Mark. The Mile Hill one is not as far along, I don't believe, as the Highway 16. That's been in conversation for a number of years. And I think it's pretty close. And I would say Mile Hill's after that. And the other 2 have
Yeah.
just started conversations. I don't know how far they're on.
Yeah. For Ross Creek, they're thinking they can get that done in a couple of years. The other one, the potential estuary that we're looking at, that's kind of been pushed off because they're waiting to see what happens with that. That's going to be probably 4 years down the line. But we probably get about round 2 at a time within a year or 2, and then, you know, so in a couple, 3 years, we'll see a couple built, and then a couple years after that, a couple more. But they are doing a lot at once. They're doing a lot in Sinclair Inlet. They're on
Is
course.
there any way the committee could be involved when they're talking about traffic closures? Or this committee, I guess, would this be the committee that, or would it be land use?
We'll inform you, but that was staff level discussions and we told them no. I mean,
Okay,
I think, Fred, what you're suggesting is we want to be able to know that staff is supportive of keeping traffic flow going
yeah,
during these projects.
of course we are.
Yeah,
well, and if we can write letters to them telling them they're crazy to close down Mile Hill for 2 years, we would certainly do that.
yeah, that seems like a big miss on their
Or
part.
6
like-
months or whatever they were thinking.
The
We're
design
not
in
thinking.
Eastern Washington. They don't
Oh,
live
it's
here.
designed in Eastern Washington or Olympia?
Olympia, or excuse me, it's in Eastern Washington.
All right, well, I promised Fred I'd try to keep it to 45 minutes, and we're at 45 minutes, so that's, I
Okay.
think, we're through the agenda.
I think we're done, except for future items, or future agenda items. And I wanted to raise the question to the participants. Are you guys available to start this meeting earlier at 4 PM instead of 4:30?
I am not. My workday ends at 4:30.
Okay, all right. Well, I just thought I'd ask. Because I know that we're bumping up against our dinner break for the council meeting, and I thought if we could move it earlier, that might be, okay. Mark or Scott, do you have anything else you want to add or bring up?
No, I'm good.
Nope.
All right,
Thank you, Chris.
yes, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
See you in an hour.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good night, everyone.
See ya.